table, and they invited me into the booth to do some commentary. And I happened to be there for the last hand. And it was a hand, John Duffy won that tournament. And John had ace queen. No, sorry, he had ace eight. Excuse me. His opponent had ace queen. And John raised the button. The other guy re-raised, and John called. And the flop came like 8-8-3. And the guy checked his ace queen, and John Duffy checked back. He slow played his three eights. And right at that moment, because I could see the whole cards, and you have to understand, no one had ever been able to talk about a poker hand on TV live, knowing what's happening, right? If it's on check, I'd just be going, I wonder what they have.
Yeah.
I have something mildly interesting to say. But I was actually able to say before 4th Street turned up, because John had the other guy covered, I said, if the turn comes an ace or a queen, the tournament's going to end right here. I'm not... no genius thing to say, obviously, knowing the whole cards. But again, we've never been able to say anything like that on TV before, right?
Yeah.
Sure enough, it comes an ace, and John Duffy wins the tournament right there. And I was just going, wow, this could be some really good TV. First time I'd ever really seen the compelling nature of, or could have been convinced that poker could be a hit on TV. There happened to be someone else at the Isle of Man who saw that tournament, and I think saw the potential. His name was Mike Sexton. And Mike, I think, finally got his due. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's a very good player. But if you were just looking at his play, he's not a Hall of Fame player. He's got one bracelet. He's won some nice tournaments. I'm never happy to see him at my table. But I think it would be safe to say that he wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame right now, except that he really was one of those really, those early evangelical poker players that said, this can be on TV. And I think for him, I haven't actually talked to him about this trip to the Isle of Man, but I know he was there. And I know over the next year or two after that event, he was really out there working hard. And, he was obviously involved in the ground floor of the World Poker Tour, and I'm sure that he had a big influence on the World Poker Tour even happening. And the experience of the Isle of Man, I think, influenced him to really pursue it. Certainly at least, Mike and myself and, I think a bunch of other people really saw, things coming a couple years before World Poker Tour. World Poker Tour didn't film its first tournament until late 2002.
That's right.
So it was well over a year after that event that the World Poker Tour started happening.
I mean, as you can see, John Duthie, I know him pretty well. We have an interview on PokerTube where he talks about this very event that I recorded with him something like a year ago. He also went on to start the European Poker Tour.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there were quite a few guys that saw the potential and looked after it in different ways.
I mean, like, if you look at the people who actually made that trip to Isle of Man, there were so many people there that ended up, becoming part of this groundswell and seeing the potential. But if it wasn't for that event, there might not have been a poker boom yet.
Exactly. I truly believe that as well. I mean, of course, Moneymaker came in there in a good time as well, 2 years later, which
but
maybe
poker was already on TV by then.
Yeah, I know. So it was maybe it would have come even if that guy was Smith. I mean, maybe that boom would still come, So that's pretty cool. So where did you go from that? I mean, did you go to...
Could we pause for 1 second?
Sure.
I just need to blow my nose, and I'll be right back.
Okay, I'll pause it.
If you give me 30 seconds.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Okay, so coming back, going forward to... Where did you go from that? The Isle of Man experience and bringing it into business in a way?
Well, actually, at that point, I didn't necessarily see the business yet. I was still very committed to just playing games, just playing cash games mostly and some tournaments. But when they got the World Poker Tour going, Lyle and Steve Lipscomb and Mike Sexton, I was one of the things they needed was they needed to convince the general poker community, hey, you should show your whole cards to the cameras. This is a good thing for you.
Mm.
That was radical. That was a radical concept back then.
True.
Poker players had never shared their secrets. And I was definitely one of those people saying, yeah, I think we should do this. This thing could be big for us. And again, I was the kind of guy that normally wouldn't travel to tournaments. I just sort of stayed in Vegas, and if there were good games in Vegas, I was in them. So I think the one pat on the back I'll give myself is I think I saw the potential for the first time. If you look at this purely from an equity point of view, right? Mm-hmm. We're putting up our money to play in a tournament. Where is my time best spent? Is this a good bet for me? I did see, hey, wait a second. If I win some of these early tournaments, there's more than just the prize money to be made here. And, I made a conscious decision to go out on the road and play in all those early World Poker Tour events. And I got really lucky, But again, if I wasn't playing in those tournaments, I couldn't have won 2 of them. So I happened to win 2 tournaments. I wasn't the only guy out there playing in all those tournaments, so I feel extremely fortunate. But there were, I'll give you an example. A guy like Chow, Elio Lesra, even like guys like John Hennigan. These were guys I was playing in these big cash games with, and they were looking at me like I was nuts to go out and play in these tournaments. And I was saying, guys, there could be something happening here in this whole poker thing, and you might want to be seen on TV doing well in these tournaments.
So that was something that some of those guys said, nah, we'll stay here. That's just a lot of, commotion.
Absolutely. There was a lot of that going on.
So what do these guys say today? They're still fine, these guys. I mean,
yeah, they're all fine.
Yeah.
And they're still playing in those big games. And look, I mean, some of them have done well for themselves anyway. I mean, and some of them hopped on the wagon a little late, but they've done well for themselves. So, I mean, it's not like you had to be there day one to do well.
No.
It's a poker room,
Of course.
But certainly there is so much, just the value in terms of just name recognition that you got winning a season 1 event versus a season 6 event. Right? It's just, I was just very fortunate to be there.
Exactly. So which were the little group you were? Did you set it together when you planned Full Tilt Poker?
No, and I'm not going to take credit. Really, and there's another leap that had to be made for Full Tilt Poker to happen. And that is, okay, you had to see this poker boom come. But, and I'm going to give Chris Ferguson all the credit on this. Chris was the one who saw, okay, and you have to understand now, this is 2002, 2003 area. There's starting to be some successful online poker sites. But they aren't marketing themselves as sort of, an aspirational, hey, you can be like these poker playing professional celebrity types, right? That whole angle that there could be a brand sustained by sort of the star power of, the TV poker celebrity. That hadn't happened. Yeah, Mike Sexton was out there saying, hey, come play a party poker. Certainly, but these other sites really weren't doing it, or at least doing it in a way we thought was sort of effective. Paradise Poker, which was the biggest site at that time, they didn't have any kind of celebrity endorsement at all. They had the best software, and they were just willing to ride that. So, Chris Ferguson really said, hey, wait a second, we could have a marketing juggernaut here if we get, these big name, real quality, top players, who are also, suddenly getting TV exposure, sort of together and form this team Full Tilt kind of thing.
So who were the guys